All right, another week around the trash fire. Your host Matthias, along with the boys.
John.
And Will.
Will, welcome back, Will. Glad you could take time off your busy schedule to join us yet again.
Indeed. I mean, this is the best trash fire, which is why I have to be here. My contract says so.
It's true. You are under contract. Reward will be, painted into the picture finally.
Yeah. You're going to edit that out. Nobody has to know, right?
Exactly. No one cut that out.
This is all entirely off the record.
Exactly. Anyways, I know you guys have a lot to talk about, some stuff. And we got some quickie news to go over. Well, before we get to the big news that is also out there. I know you guys are gonna. I know John's excited about it. So shall we just jump in?
Let's do it.
All right then. Well, as big for the Sunday preview, we don't really need to go over anything here. It's just gonna be the AoS domination box being
Dominion.
Sorry, what did I say? Domination? Dominion.
Very similar word, to be fair.
Yes.
I mean, once you've dominated a bunch of things, it could be said that you have a dominion over it.
True.
So, you know.
But yes, the Dominion box will be up for pre-order finally. Come in this week. Not much to go over here. We already know what's in the box. We've gone over what's in the box. And
Yep.
I think the only thing that's left to say is will GW sell out of this in 5 minutes, or will they have actually made a lot of boxes?
Well, they've also come up with that new queuing strategy on their web store.
Would you like to explain that?
John, I think you could probably explain that the best because you actually made use of it this weekend.
Yeah, when I was getting Gaunt's Ghosts. So essentially what it is when you go on the website, you're put in a queue, kind of like when you got when you get like concert tickets, like when I got Coachella tickets, it was the exact same process where there's like a loading bar on your screen. And as time passes, it fills out. And once it's filled, then you have access to the web store. And then you can buy your stuff. I mean, let's see if Gaunt's Ghost sold out because I was able to secure a copy and it was up for a while. I know this is like a hot item from what I know. Actually, no, it's still up pre-order. Maybe not. Maybe it's not that hot of an item.
Or
Uh,
the queue system may have driven off people who otherwise would have bought 20 of them.
right. The limited edition stuff did sell out like within the hour, but I mean, I think it will help. I don't think it's an end all solution. I still think if you want this box to just get it, wake up at 10 a.m., which is not that early, and get in the queue. Now I understand sometimes life may get in the way, but that's probably one of the two ways to secure a box. That the other one being call your local game store and ask them to hold you one, right?
True.
But hopefully it'll work out. Hopefully it'll work out.
Well, how long did you wait in this queue for Guns Ghost minis?
Well,
Just out
it
of
was like 30
curiosity.
seconds.
30 seconds?
30 seconds to a minute, and then I got on the website.
Hmm. Were you limited or no? In terms of how many you could buy.
Yeah, you can only get $1.
All right. Well, we'll have to wait and see if that's going to be the same implementation. I mean, that's definitely one way to stop mass buying.
I think it will. I think it will.
Yeah, I mean, people with bots. I mean, I'm sure they could find some way to continuously buy more, but we'll wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, actually, I'm checking right now. You are limited to one Gaunt's Ghosts. If you go to web store right now, per order.
All right. Well, I don't think they'll. I think they'd probably limited you to like 2 boxes of Dominion, but we'll have
I
to
think it'll be
wait and
one
see.
box, to be honest.
Quite a lot of the stuff that they've been making recently is limited to one. Even Kragnos, who, as far as I know, has not sold out, is still limited to one. That might be a result of that miniature they've only made so many of. So that's probably, probably, I would guess a similar amount of Gaunt's Ghosts available as there is Kragnos, but there's
Right.
probably way more Dominion than there are Kragnoses and Gaunt's Ghosts. But they still don't want to be in the situation they were with. So Cursed City is the most extreme end of that example, but Be'lakor I think is actually a pretty uh, relevant negative case study of that. Be'lakor is still really hard to find, and it's a bummer.
Especially because we know Be'lakor is a rage item. Like Cursed City, as far as we know, is gone, but Be'lakor is, on the web store. And it says email me.
Yeah, and Be'lakor right after that was when they took the 2 week break to kind of restructure how their web store works and like change their production cycle and everything. Be'lakor probably should have been one per order, but I don't think GW knew that at the time.
Yeah, well, let's hope. I mean, Cursed City is a good example, but we don't want like another Indominus situation, right?
Right.
We don't want the main starter box to be sold out. I mean, granted, they did a cool thing where they made it made to order, but I mean, you got it way later than everyone else did. You still got it, just way later.
Getting it, I think, is the most important thing. Even though it's a huge pain to not get it right when it comes out. Though I think it's also worth noting that, at least from Games Workshop's perspective, in the long term, Dominion is not really going to function as the long-term starter set. Most likely, they're going to be doing something similar to what they did with the 40k starter sets with the 3 versions. But most likely Dominion, the command sort of sprues in there with like the more specialized characters will come out on their own, probably for a pretty high price, and then you'll be able to get them later, like the way Indominus works now. But
Yeah,
this is not going to be the starter set on the shelves for long. I think we'll probably see it, sell out pretty quick, and then we won't see them in stores for more than a couple weeks afterwards as people catch wind of it and buy up all the copies that exist out there in made space.
yeah, I agree. I think GW has found a pretty neat way of just selling their starter sets into the 3 bundles. Because I mean, if I recall, John and I agree that the mid tier of 40k, I can't remember what it was called, was probably the best deal to get.
Holiday League Edition. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, you could go above and beyond and get more stuff, or get a good deal and buy 2 of the mid tier and get an army that way. I mean, I think the tier system is gonna work out well. I mean, they had it for the current AoS, right? Wasn't that the beginner or the
Yeah,
beginning of
so
this?
the beginning of this was well, having a full hardback rulebook in it. That started with Dark Imperium. Dark Imperium had was kind of a hybrid of like what we're seeing with Dominion and Indominus and like the previous starter sets of old. Like you were getting a hardcore, full rule book in there. You were getting uh you were getting dice, you were getting rulers and stuff like that. Dominion and Indominus of course don't have those. They have rule books, but like Dominion has no measuring tape, no dice. Like it's not designed to sort of play with out of the box. Like there's no terrain, nothing like that.
Right.
Like it's something new people could pick up, but it's also very much aimed at existing hobbyists who are excited about the new edition and want to snag 2 armies.
Yeah.
Well,
Should be
anyways,
very exciting.
If people who want this, I hope they get it. Again, I mean, there's gonna be one extra out there because I'm not buying one. So
That's for me.
exactly. I mean, the only thing I want out of this is the rule book. I don't really want the armies. So that's that. That's this week. Best of luck to everyone out there to get it. And
Actually,
in 2
I
weeks.
do want to comment on that, Matt. Like, I think I was talking with Will before the cast started because the rules are out for free now. I'm thinking you might just need the rule book and General's Handbook, honestly.
I think you just need the General's Handbook and the free download.
Either free download. Like
The
you
free
don't have
download
more
is substantial.
yeah, it's 44 pages.
Yeah, just about.
To put it in perspective, you could find the formations and the command abilities in the core rule book. 40k does not have that. You do need the core rule 40k rule book for your detachments. And AOS, the detachment equivalent, which are formations, are not in there. So yeah, you might just need a general's handbook and the free rule download. I think the big thing the core rules has is path to glory and narrative in general. But if you're a match play person, probably general's handbook and the core rules, and you're good to the core rules download. You're good to go.
Well, then I guess I'm good to go. Ready to
Yeah,
play
I'd have
3
to do a little
MMO.
more research, but that's sounding correct. I think their intention with Age of Sigmar has always been that you don't need to buy the big rulebook to play it. But for match play, yeah, General's Handbook is going to be something you'll want. Also, because it's rebalancing the points in the game, and any other erratas that they want to put in print.
Yep, and that's
Because
currently on
now
their website now.
they're very taken with this idea of having the gamers edition of this is the rule book that the gamers are going to need, and then the most important stuff is going to be free. But the Age of Sigmar free core down rules, the core down rules, the download for the free core rules, the Games Workshop put up today, is far and away the largest version of the core rules for Age of Sigmar ever. It's a good 10 times bigger than the one we got back in 2015.
Well, you know what they said, hashtag new AOS, bigger and better rules that have ever existed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's lots to talk about there too. I don't know if you want to get into that now or later.
Let's get into it a little bit later. It'll be more at the tail end. We got like 2 more things we need to talk about.
Hmm.
Which I know, I don't know, well, I know John will be happy about the news. It will be a good old Argel Tal, something 30k related,
Yes. Argel Tal model.
showing that 30k is getting love with one model.
Right. Would be a lukewarm thing, but another story popped up, and we'll talk about that later. But just talk about this guy for now. He looks awesome. I really like this model. I think I like this character. It's a great HQ. It's very random in the sense of like we didn't really expect this to happen, considering he doesn't have rules yet, right? And he's not in any of the none of the campaign books feature his story or the books he's in, the novels he's in, which leads me to think that the next Black Book is going to be about the Shadow Crusade, which is it's when the Word Bearers and World Eaters fight the Ultramarine Empire. In 30k, so that's pretty hype. But as for the model, I think is really cool. One thing, my only complaint is that if you didn't tell me this was Argel Tal, there's nothing that indicates he's Argel Tal. Like, if I showed you 30k Typhus or 30k Karn or 30k Aram, well, maybe not 30k Aram Man, less so, but if I show you those guys, you could probably tell, okay, this is Typhus, this is Karn. Aram Man less so, but you could probably he has some stuff in his model that kind of indicates, okay, this is probably Iron Man, especially if you see art of Iron Man. That's Iron Man. Now, Argel Tal does not look like any of the art he's featured in. He doesn't have any signature weapons, which is, I believe, a sword and a Custodian's Guardian Spear. Um, this model just looks like a possessed Marine. He's a really cool possessed Marine, but again, nothing in this model screams Argel Tal. That's my only complaint. Other than that, this being Argel Tal, pretty hyped about it. I'm more hyped that his existence is hinting at the next Black Book, which is again Shadow Crusade, which means more stuff for Ultramarines, World Bearers, and World Eaters. So that's pretty cool. What do you think, Will? I mean, you like this character probably more than I do.
I like the character a lot. Paradoxically, if I could come to Forge World's defense for a moment, you brought up something interesting, John. That the character does not particularly look like, uh, there's Argel Tal. He doesn't have Argel Tal's distinctive weapons. He has the serrated sun emblem on his chest, But Argel Tal has had 3 that I know of, like official pieces of artwork featuring the character, and none of those pieces of artwork look alike, and none of them look like this miniature. So Forge World kind of took some creative liberties with something that was pretty loosey goosey anyway. But I do think your point still stands that this does not immediately scream like I am this character. It just kind of looks like a sort of a hulking badass, possessed word bearer. Very much like if this could be Argel Tal or it could be Gal Vorbak ascended or something, right?
Right.
And you could still call it Argel Tal, but like that's what it would be. Um, I personally think the sculpt is pretty solid. The wings are a little bit um, indicative of the fact that this was made in resin and not plastic. We're used to way more impressive wing sculpts on Citadel miniatures these days. These look a little bit early 2000s. Thankfully, the wings are one of the easiest things to chop off and replace with new wings, particularly because it looks like they're coming right out of the exhausts of his backpack. So you pretty easily convert up something that sort of has greater sculpt fidelity there. Because otherwise, the rest of the miniature is sculpted very nicely, particularly like his mutations and like his torso. That stuff's really hard to imitate in green stuff unless you're a talented sculptor yourself. So the fact that that's the part of the model that they nailed, and the wings are maybe not the best, it's kind of the best place to be in. It's a cool sculpt, and it's funny for a character who really does not have many appearances in the books or at all in the black books, to my knowledge. Is finally getting a model just for him.
Yeah, he barely appears. He's in like what, like 3 books?
He's in 1 novella and 2 novels.
And there's the MCU cameo in No Fear.
Is he mentioned in that?
Yeah, he has like a Marvel style cameo in No Fear.
Oh,
Yeah.
that might be right.
Um,
Memories jogging. What do you think when you see this model, Matt?
I just see a possessed marine. Honestly, I nothing nothing really pops up to me. But I mean, I've always had a problem with the marine models in general. They all just kind of just look the same.
That I think tells you something. If you're looking at this model and John was talking about that it could be more distinctive, and you're literally just like, yeah, this is a possessed. It's, a slightly bigger possessed, but
I mean, model wise, right? Crack armor, the mutations, it all looks nice. But if I saw this, I'd just say it's a possessed. Wouldn't say this is a character or anything.
yeah, he doesn't have the sort of traditionally overindulgent base that we're used to seeing from a lot of the character series, quote unquote, models that Forge World does. His base is pretty understated. Like if it wasn't for the wings, I could be convinced that this is actually a plastic model in disguise, just because it doesn't have a ridiculously huge base.
Right.
But yeah, that's interesting to hear your perspective on that, Matt.
Well, I think it'd be interesting because I mean, I heard what John said. I mean, he's supposed to have a sword and a custodian spear. I think that
yeah,
would have been
his
nice
Right.
to.
weapon is he doesn't really wield it for long, but he does wield a guardian spear from a custodian he kills.
Right. Like that
Which
would have
is,
been interesting.
yeah, for a lot of people that's his defining feature, right? But it is pretty distinct, you don't see anyone, let alone a trader, possessed marine carrying a guardian spear. So
Yeah, and his most recent concept art before this model was revealed, he had like a wolf's head, which was very distinct. Like the bottom of his mask, opened up to be like the top of like a wolf's jaw, which was kind of cool. They decided not to do that this time because they're sort of trying to marry together the 3 pieces of artwork that we have of this guy. So now Argel Tal is, uh, about as uh, about as like flexible in appearance as 40k canon tends to be. It's like everything is canon, nothing is true, something like that. It's that Dan Abnett quote.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's good to know that 30K is getting love. That's all I could really say about this. But
Hmm.
model wise, I'm not really that impressed. I mean, obviously it's a good sculpt. We all agree on that, but I don't see it screaming like a character kind of deal. But if that's all, we can move on to the next bit of news, model news, which John sent me some kind of picture with guardsmen looks like fighting some Primaris orcs. What is this, John? Is this like the Imperial Guard kit that they just released?
Yeah, so actually, they just confirmed this leak today. I don't know if you saw it, but we are getting new Orc boys.
I did.
Yeah,
I just
so
wanted to post that image up so we could go right into the Primaris Orc boys.
Primaris boys.
Orcs are getting resculpted. So good news for new Orc players, bad news for old Orc players.
It's a huge deal. It's a huge deal, and predictably on the internet, people have lots of feelings about it. Considering we've only seen 3 really, really tiny pictures and then one full picture on the website with the new Orc Boy. I mean, I think it's a fantastic move. Personally, like this is so necessary. Like this is the thing I've been wanting, and I don't even play Orcs in 40k. Like I've this, it's not for me. Like I've painted in my time a ton of the old Orc boys, the current Orc boys as they were. This is so great. It just completely like captures like what the Brian Nelson Orcs are supposed to look like. That the sculpts like really couldn't do justice to. It's also fascinating how now we're really setting a clear distinction between like what greenskins look like in Age of Sigmar and what greenskins look like in Warhammer 40,000. Because this Orc boy does not look like a Cruel boy, obviously. Doesn't really look like an Iron Jaw, and doesn't look like a Savage Orc boy either. And that's kind of the greatest place to be in.
Yeah, well, no more hunchback orcs, so that's good. And obviously the design's obviously nice, and it kind of just goes back to what John said a long time ago, right? The core army, the main unit, I mean, is important to some people on how they look. And now that they're getting updated, I'm sure a lot more people would want to be orc players now that they don't have hunchback orcs and whatnot. Plus, I'm sure there's more orc models, resculpts coming as well, because when they did the Beast Snagas reveal, they said that was only half the orc models that we saw. So
Yeah.
I wonder what else will be getting reworked.
I will say though, like the biggest criticism of this happening is definitely the price hike. I mean, Cadians went up $10 because of the upgrade sprue. So you could probably expect to see a similar price increase. Now, for people who don't mind that, who are willing to pay for quality, that's great. I'm willing to pay that extra money for this jump in quality for orcs. But for a lot of people, that's a lot, which is totally fair.
True.
So that is a thing.
Well, I mean, if this is gonna be the whole orc line, I mean, that means Burnas, Ludas, uh, Flash kits. I mean, a bunch of stuff. All those old
Flash kit,
models are gonna be
flash kits are pretty modern, I would argue.
Yeah, you're right. I
Actually,
forgot.
I don't think those even Ludas and Burnas like can get by sort of on character alone. But the Orc boy had to be replaced.
True.
Um, it was it was like kind of a non-negotiable, and I think a lot of people would have just ended up using the Snagaboy models as Orc boys somehow. But it's such a treat. Can't wait to see the full kit on this. And again, I'm not even an Orc player, but like it's so like liberating to see one of the most important cornerstones of like Warhammer 40,000 as like a setting and like artistically get this treatment. Like the humble orc boy has been murdered and does murder across many Warhammer video games and novels and tabletops. and like now they're getting that star treatment. Uh, 10 out of 10. I've only seen the one orc boy, but I think I am hopefully in not the minority in thinking that this is a good move. There are obviously a lot of people who are annoyed by it, and there's a lot of people who are excited by it. So it'll be cool to see the full kit.
I think most more people are happy just because like you can't really you can't complain that Space Marines get good stuff and Xenos don't, and now you're getting Xenos stuff and be like, oh, but then I gotta buy new ones.
Yeah, well, the
I
Space Marine
think
players had to buy new ones too. So
right. I do think, I mean, the fact that Graveguard didn't get resculpted makes me think that stuff like Ludas and Flash kits will stay. I think they're getting dated a bit, but I don't think they'll be resculpted.
all right.
Knobs probably may stay the same, honestly.
Well,
And
I only said that because they said only half the work stuff got revealed. So I mean, I don't know
I
what
think we'll
more.
see more new kits.
Well, hell, if they finally put what's it called? Deaf copters finally on the market. That'd be
That's
huge.
very
That could
possible.
happen, and the truck, because I think like I imagine because if they're going to be doing this, I mean, they're getting rid of a 20-year-old kit or something. I mean, the Brian Nelson orcs are like 20 years old, right? Like, I mean, I can fact check this, but like, they're ancient. I can't remember. I can barely, faintly remember a time where there were other plastic orc boys that were available. And the Black Reach orc boys were also just the same kit with different versions.
Hmm.
Um, but if they're going to change this, they kind of have to change things like knobs. I think I could also agree with John. I could see those staying, but I think the truck is gonna have to go.
No, knobs are definitely gonna have to change. If these orc boys are bigger, knobs have to change.
It's
Graveguard,
a little soon to tell if they're bigger.
True.
Graveguard.
And the Graveguard thing also did happen. That's the Graveguard skeleton warrior thing is a terrible choice to be made if it was like that. I mean, I don't know if like the design team was like, we can only you can only save one of your skeleton sculpts. Like, is it going to be skeleton warriors or is it going to be Graveguard? But I could see them not doing knobs, just because like knobs probably are going to be physically larger models, or they're going to still be physically larger than these new orc boys are.
Hmm.
But have these orc boys look like they were made in this millennium. Um, that's essential.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure orcs are coming around the corner now. Now
Mm.
that we were getting more and more model news about them. And then there was a character. Well, they didn't give us a model, but they gave us another character on a giant squig. I forget
Oh yeah.
what's his name. More Mazrog. Another snake biter orc.
Indeed, I believe he's a new character. I'm not the expert on orc characters, but I think this is a new guy.
I think you are correct in that assumption. So it's a sad. I'm not gonna get old Zogwart in there. No turning people into squigs.
We may still. Who can say, right? Like, there's so much that's still under wraps about this release.
Yep.
True. There's still lots to come, but that's pretty much all the news in the model. We can dive right into some AoS rules. I don't know if anything has caught your guys' eyes or not.
I mean, we could just talk about because the rules are free now, out as of today. So big thing I want to point out that me and Will were chatting about earlier is the rules are very clearly defined now. It's very what I call American wargaming, like, which is like if you play games like War Machine and Star Wars Legion, they define things pretty clearly. It's not like, for example, in Star Wars Legion, right? Uh, um, Within is specifically defined. Same for War Machine. Like War Machine specifically has a rules difference between within and wholly within. Those are clearly defined, clearly separated, and it looks like new AOS follows the same kind of rules philosophy. I think Will pointed out earlier when we were chatting that effects are clearly defined. Like, what is an effect? If you're just under an effect,
Yeah.
clearly defined.
Distances is another thing that's like distances are a thing. Like in there, it's very clear like what the terms are. It's almost written like a textbook, which is for something like this for the core rules is the right way to go for my money. Like there's a lot of diagrams, there's a lot of clarification. They're trying to make the rules as uninterpretive as possible. I think they really don't want people to have to look at something that's in the core rules. It's very clearly written out there, and say, "Oh, it's roll a dice for it, and we'll figure out the rule later." Like you know, ward saves, and they're just called wards now. Like wards are back in the game, and it says, some abilities allow you to roll a dice to negate a wound before it is allocated to a model. Abilities of this type are known as a ward, and the dice roll is referred to as a ward roll, which is like 20 words, but there's no illusion about what that rule actually is.
Right.
Uh, that's kind of a big deal. Um, it has a cost because the cost of it is, the last edition. I think there was like 16 pages of core rules for Age of Sigmar 2.0. This one has got 40 pages. Um, if you read them, you're gonna know the rules. If you don't read them, then it may seem overwhelming and it might seem like overly complicated. Um, but by making it really clear um, and taking a little bit of a hit on being concise, you're just going to have less rule conflicts overall. So I think that's actually a very bold choice they've made to move in this direction.
And the big part is that it is free. These rules are free. All
Because it's
44
because
pages.
it's Age of Sigmar,
Age of Sigmar.
Yep.
Age of Sigmar's brand is built on accessibility, which is something some people don't like. But I think accessibility leads to more people having access, right?
It's a great
Um,
way to get a lot of people into your game, right? If it's easy to access. I mean, that's what I've always liked about the AOS side as well. You go to the GW website. You think about buying a model, you can just download the rules right there at the store page,
Yep.
or you
yeah,
can go get the free app and just look at it that way.
the Age of Sigmar app,
Yeah,
truly my favorite of those two children, two digital children of Games Workshop. 40K app.
I think the Paint app destroys them both, though. I will say
Which one?
the Paint app.
Oh, the Paint app is amazing. That Citadel color is great. Uh, that is it is so nice to know what paints I own and that I don't need to buy another pot of Skaven Blight Dinge. Like I found out when I did that paint app thing that I own 4 pots of Skaven Blight Dinge. That's a color like I've used like twice. Amazing app.
the Paint app, huh?
Yeah, it's just good for like knowing what you have and knowing what other colors exist there, and it gives suggestions on like this is a color progression. Like the other day, John, you were asking me like what's the highlight for Cantor Blue, and I was like pretty sure it's Eliatok Blue, and like go to the app, and the app will tell me.
Mhm.
Um, it is in fact. Oh god, I can't remember now. Got to go to the app.
Goes, yeah. But yeah. Memes aside. Rulebook is in terms of rules. Formations are gone now. We know that's been confirmed. Or sorry, battalions. Not formation is the 40K term. Battalions that in the battle tomes are now only narrative play.
Yep.
Well, there was some things I saw. I only looked at the Warhammer articles. I didn't look at the thing
Mhm.
because I kind of didn't see it there. Uh, I saw that Arcane Bolt got changed.
Oh,
Yeah. Cool. You can use it in any phase now. So you can precast it in the hero phase and then use it later.
Yep, and it also does D3 mortal wounds if they're within 3 inches. So I think it's gonna be used a lot more close combat style now.
There's an awesome like theoretical of like melee battle mage Nagash of like pre-casting a bunch of arcane bolts and just like walking up and unleashing, a flurry of arcane punches. It probably doesn't work that way, but it's cool. It's fun that like you have more choices with what you can do with your magic for a spell that every wizard can use.
Yep, we got that, and then
A lot of command abilities.
there was
And it's
another
also
thing.
really cool command abilities. Like there's one of my favorites is when your enemy moves, you get to move a unit on like
Yeah,
D6. I think that's super fun.
redeploy. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
definitely. It's not alternating activations, but it's definitely a step in the right direction of promoting more active play during your opponent's turn. Like if he moves his unit of cruel boys to be in charge range of your card runs, right? Um, could redeploy them.
Yeah, we got that. We got the all out defense, which you can
Plus,
make +1 to your save rolls for any
that's
attacks. There's also unleash hell, which allows you to shoot in that phase, but you have to subtract 1. So who doesn't want an extra shot, right? Extra shooting
right.
phase. Isn't that why what's it called got banned or reworked? The Yunari thing, Soul
Oh,
Burst.
yeah, Soul Burst.
Yep. And then there's this other article, the core battalion rule shakeup for match play.
Mhm.
So I see, we can see that the table size is changing depending on how many points you're doing. All pretty standard stuff here. Then we got core battalions. So I assume this is gonna be like a 40k kind of deal. Where you got Vanguard, Outrider, some detachments kind of deal, or am I just
Yes and no. The no being you don't need that. Like in 40k, you kind of need battalions to play. Otherwise, you're just losing command points.
right?
But in AOS, like you need if you're playing a 2,000 point game, you need one HQ. Right? Is that how it works? Maybe I misread that. Maybe you do.
Uh, they've also made a couple changes to. Yeah, I mean, it says you can include any of the following core battalions.
Right.
You gotta look at it again and see if battalions are required, but I don't think so.
You just get a bonus for it, but it's not required.
Okay.
And they're pretty flexible. One of the problems with one of the many issues with the existence of like these special like faction battalions is not only were they pretty restrictive in terms of what you could take, and they caused lists to become more sort of homogenized because you were seeing the same, kind of people were playing around battalions and like not so much like the faction, but like what battalions were within the faction. And it was very much a case of have and have nots. Like the factions with terrible battalions, weren't very good, and there were some factions who were like leashed to their battalions like a ball in a chain. Beasts of Chaos, I think, are the most damning example of that. Of like those guys function on their battalions so much that I imagine they're going to be one of the first books to get reworked as like a new battle tome for 3.0, because they barely function anyway, but they really don't work without their battalions.
Hmm.
But battalions also like do different things, which is cool. Like you can pick extra enhancements for your army, which are like little like special passives. Like you can do unleash hell or all out attack for free with one of the battalions. It's a cool design space. I think I think the only thing is with the battalions, there's mandatory parts to the battalions, but I don't think it is mandatory that you must have one to be battle forged, which is not a term in Age of Sigmar, but to have a legal match play list, I don't think you need one.
Yeah.
It's a benefit thing.
Yeah.
That's all it is. So it works like the old help me out here. What do they call battalions?
Formations.
formations. It's just
Yeah.
it's probably just not going to be as crucial or game changing.
Yeah, they're not crazy. You don't get like free rhinos with your Stormcast, you know.
Yeah, or you're thinking of like the Decurion style
Yeah,
detachments
I know,
from
this is
7th
so funny.
edition,
Like
which were noxious.
we always joke about how like the new thing is always bad, the old thing is good. I saw a comment on 40K Facebook of like, man, remember when we had like battle companies? Those were the days, man. Those were fun times. And I'm just like, what the hell are you smoking? um, anyways, tangent, but that just reminded me of that.
Yeah. There's so much to talk about that like it's sort of overwhelming, but like it's also great that, these rules are available for everybody to peruse, not peruse.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, if we want, we could probably just touch on it next week when we have more reading on it and we really talk
I'm not
about
trying to
stuff.
say it. Um, I'm gonna try. We're gonna try AOS this week with one of my buddies, so we will see. We'll
Hey,
let you know.
are you gonna do a 3.0 game, huh?
Yeah.
I look forward to that. Hearing the stories. Uh,
That'll be a very interesting experiment.
Yes.
if I could ask, what's being played?
Well, if I
It's gonna be vampires against something.
no, actually, it's gonna be my buddy Don. You know Donnie. He has Iron Jaws. And if my vampires aren't fully painted, but I could bring my Stormcast for a fully painted game, so we'll see.
That would be pretty cool because those are the two battle tomes that are going to get updated. First in the new edition is Auric War Clans and Stormcast.
Yeah, and it's not even like the armies, like it's Iron Jaws and Sacrosanct, not
Yeah,
not Slimcast and Orks.
right.
So
Uh,
yeah, we'll definitely let you guys know
all right, that sounds cool.
the new editions.
I'll look forward to that. But yeah, hopefully we'll have a more in depth on the rules and stuff, and we'll be able to talk about it next week in preparation. But I know some other news, some leak news that I got from John popped up, and I'll just flash the first image I got here. What am I looking at here, John?
Oh my gosh. So this is so funny because this popped in our group chat and Saturday when we were on the way to the Warhammers, well, where we were in line for the Warhammer Cafe, which we'll talk about later. But on the car right there, me and Will were like, man, John, wouldn't it be great if like Horus Heresy got like another box set? And then this thing just like pops all over the internet. So if this is real, and if what I'm looking at is what it is, what I think it is, this is a new Horus Heresy box set, probably a $200 Dominion and Dominus size box set.
In
And
plastic,
because
theoretically.
plastic. We're looking at, so we have two HQs, new sculpts. I've never seen these before. We looks like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 30 Mark 6 Marines. So the beaky helm, the OG Rogue Trader Marines. Five what looks like to be the same Cataphractii Terminators, so I don't see any big difference there with the ones that we have now, which I'm fine with if they're in that box. A new Contemptor Dreadnought. Now I say new with an asterisk because it looks like the current Contemptor with different weapons. So what I mean by that is I could definitely see them placing the current monopose plastic Contemptor with another sprue with the new weapons. You see an autocannon and a Havoc launcher for this guy, which again is not in the current box. So that's new. So it's probably again same Contemptor we have with a new sprue. And big thing is what looks like to be a plastic Spartan. I'm pretty sure this is plastic. They generally don't release resin box sets. Also, there's some people on the internet that are dissecting the image and comparing the tracks to the current one, and they're different apparently. So my money is if this box set is real, that this is a plastic Spartan. So once again, this is a 30K box set, which is bananas because we've been asking for this ever since Burning of Prospero several years ago. This is crazy. The 30K hype is definitely building. I mentioned in this podcast several times that I'm gonna start Orks, F Orks for the foreseeable future. because the heresy train is coming back. Big thing I want to point out is I don't know if this will come with a new rule set. I hope it comes with a new Horus Heresy 2.0 rule set with new rules, because if you know me, I've always complained that the rules need some cleanup. I don't necessarily want it to be a 9th edition rework to work with the new 40k edition, but I do want some rules changes. Whether it's just changing how the psychic phase works, minor changes to cover or weapon scale, or maybe just a whole new rule set that's while it still uses the current stats and special rules in the code, the black books, that maybe there's some fundamental changes to how the game is played. But even if that didn't happen, just the fact that we got a new box set for Heresy, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, in my opinion, it's the biggest Horus Heresy news for the general Warhammer public in 5 years. Like that, Burning and Prospero is October 2016.
Holy crap, that's a long time ago.
Oh, 5
Yeah.
years, huh?
And there hasn't those boxes. Betrayal at Calth and Burning of Prospero were discontinued at a similar time for reasons unknown. But like, yeah, I mean, this is the chance for the Horus Heresy to hit a more general market of people who could like go into a game store and find it. Because for Forge World, like you kind of have to know what you're looking for. Like if you want to get into Horus Heresy, or you have to have like you have to be aware of Warhammer already. But like this is another way. This is an entry point into Horus Heresy, which Horus Heresy, in my opinion, desperately needs, because that is a game that needs to recruit more people if it's gonna have a future beyond being another of the specialist games.
True. Only problem with Horus Heresy that I see is, it's a Forge World game, so it hurts the wallet.
And that is a key problem.
And even then, I do want to point out that, again, I'm the biggest Horus Heresy fan in this podcast by far, but this is not a game for everyone. And by that I mean it takes a lot to play Horus Heresy. I mean, even for our local gaming group, for our events, we really push like fully painted, fully based, you know, um, stick to the lore. Like recently, actually, one of our friends was like, one of our 40k AoS friends, like, hey, can I proxy a Sicaran as another tank? It's like, no, you can't. It's immersion ruining. I mean, yeah, it's kind of draconian, but that's Horus Heresy, right? It's the historical war game, and it's a huge. The games tend to be really big. Like even if you go all plastic, no Forge World, like you're like our minimum is 3,000 points for to play this game. Now the game isn't necessarily only playable at that points level, but the kind of appeal of Horus Heresy is that those massive battles with a ton of Space Marines. Um, so there's that, and another big part why I would say that Horus Heresy isn't for everyone, and this is relevant to people like Matt, is that it's mainly about Space Marines. If you like Xenos, if you yeah, regular humans are there, but if you're a Guard fan, may not necessarily be the game for you. To be honest, it really is about the Space Marines. I don't know when the last time Mechanicum got anything. I don't know when it was years ago. I don't know when the last time Custodes in this game got anything. Solar Ox got a tank, which are the humans. They got a tank last year, and that was kind of it. And I think their infantry is like popping in and out of stock in Forge World. You can't really start them you know, without that, right? So it is primarily a Space Marine game. Now, if you love the novels and you want to really recreate those battles and play a game that captures the feel of the novels, kind of, then Horus Heresy is that. And again, like Will said, this box set makes it easy for those people who want to commit to that to start. Because right now it's kind of hard to get in the game, right? You need to buy individual boxes. You can't. There's no start collecting. There's no starter set at the moment. You need to get your individual Mark IVs, Mark IIIs, etc., etc. And you need a lot of them. So if this is a $200 box, this is like a great price. Like when we were out live at the cafe, I made a 3,000 point list with 2 of these boxes in Gilliman. You know, um, and 2 of those boxes, that's a lot, but in the grand scheme of like being able to build a 3,000 point army with just two of these boxes, that's a great deal in my opinion. Um, and you can, like, even if you don't have a prime mark, if you use, like, the tactical marines here as veterans, you can just increase your points value. We give upgrades to the Spartan, for example. You could use that to jack up the points for your army. So this is great. This is hype. This is damn exciting, and I am definitely gonna pick up at least 2 of these, if not more. And
Well, hopefully they don't limit it to one, which I don't think would really happen, right?
And
um,
the timetable of when it actually comes out, a lot of the production issues may be different, or not as bad as they are right now.
I mean, if this is a leak, like, I know we talked about this, Will, but if this is a leak, they probably won't announce it until, if they announce it today, they're not going to announce it until the next week, which means that we're going to be seeing this, like, late fall, early winter, or maybe in winter, like
Yeah.
November.
This to me seems like something that would fall in the November October timetable, kind of similar to other sort of, because this is still, even though this is very exciting box, it's still a specialist box. Um, it's going to be, unless they roll out data sheets for 40K for for the Spartan, which they might do.
They,
Just
they
to,
have, they have, Forge World has it.
oh yeah, I
All
guess that's right.
playable in 40K.
So yeah, there's that. Like, this is something that I could see coming in that like early winter slot. I don't think this is going to be something they're gonna put out in the summer. Could be wrong, but it just seems like something that would happen later in the year because they want to focus on AOS at the moment. Because they did not react to this on Warhammer Community yet, even though these pictures have circulated pretty far and wide.
Yeah, well, more good news for 30K. At least they're not just getting an Argel Tal model this year, most likely.
Right.
Right.
A quick thing to point out, for people who have played Space Marines for forever, and that the Tech Marines have an interesting pose. They're very straight up. We'll compare them a lot to the Death Watch kill team, where they look better scaled than the squatting Marines that we have for Firstborn. Now, initially, I thought this was straight up Chaos Marine scale, which is slightly bigger, but I think it's just maybe a consequence that their legs are more straight, which gives the illusion of them being taller, which I am all for. They don't look dinky, they don't look kind of smushed, especially if you compare them to pre-Primaris Marines, where they had that squatting pose and therefore look shorter than they actually could be, and they look very imposing and whatnot. So that's pretty cool. Now it is the beaky helmet, so if you don't like beakies, that sucks. Or you can always just get some of the Forge World upgrade heads or mix and match helmets and then make some Mark 5 armor. But
Yeah, a bizarre coincidence, or I looked this up. They don't make on Forge World that many upgrade sets for 30K that are related to this mark of armor. They're gonna have to make some new ones, in theory.
right, I'm also surprised it is Mark 6, which is the beaky, because the most common, so the in Horus Heresy, the two most common marks of armor, 2 and Mark 4. Mark 4 being that's the new standard issue. By the time of the Heresy, that was the new advanced armor, right? But now, while Corvus armor was of a later mark, which is it's more advanced, it was also more specialized. It wasn't as widely issued to the Space Marine legions. Mark 4 was the big, here's the new armor we're gonna give to everyone, which is makes it one of the most common armors. And the other most common one was Mark II, which is the original, like, after the when the Great Crusade started and the Space Marines started fighting in other planets after they left Terra. They were issued Mark II armor, so that would also be the next, like, most widely used armor. And I'm surprised they didn't jam this box with that, because that Mark II is pretty iconic for Horus Heresy. It looks very archaic, has a kind of like knight helm. Mark 5 is still Mark 6 is still using 40k, so it doesn't seem that ancient. Now it's still cool, don't get me wrong, but I'm just kind of surprised. That was actually the one reason why I first doubted this box, is I expected Mark 2 to be the one they would use, because again, that is the common mark for most legions next to Mark 4. Now there are rumors that we're gonna see a Mark 2 kit, which will be amazing. But I just want to point that out for us heresy nerds out there.
Hmm.
Odd choice of armor.
Well, interesting stuff to come. But that is all for the news, really. So you guys got any final thoughts before we head into hobby rant section?
Sorry, Orks.
Sorry,
Time for
Orks. John betrayed you. He's
I know.
going back to 30k. That's where his money goes to.
Yep.
He never left.
Well then, I didn't really get to do anything. I got disappointment because my redemptionist slash deepkin warband didn't come in Saturday, so I didn't get to pick that stuff up, unfortunately.
No.
And I didn't really do any I didn't do too many tabletop gaming. But I know you guys went to Warhammer Cafe here in LA. So how was that?
We did. We did go to that. So the too long did not listen is we stood in line for 10.5 hours.
10.5 hours?
Yeah. So
I'm
this was
surprised they were open that long.
they were open actually quite a bit longer than they expected. I was just texting a buddy before the cast began who was in the back of the line, almost the back of the line, um, who I saw for like 20 seconds while we were there, kind of walking by. And they were open. They made sure that everybody who was in line got to go into the store, but he waited like 12 and a half hours, which is pretty jaw dropping to wait to go buy something. Um, that being said, I do not regret it. I don't
Really?
know what did you think of our experience, John?
Yeah, didn't regret it. It was good company. It would suck if I was by myself, but Will was there, and one of our buddies, gaming buddies, happened to show up. That we haven't seen him for a while, so it was cool chatting him up. Um, but the line was bearable. Like I didn't regret it. I wasn't like, oh, this sucks. I wish I wasn't here. But the store, on the other hand, oh man. Well, besides, I got what I wanted. I got the Necron Lord. I got the Chaos Warrior. I got the Catachan Sergeant, which I'm gonna add to my Gaunt's Ghost for Stargrave. Um, but Will, you got some stuff too, right? You got that random Night Quest store that never
I
went out.
did. It was like I would say almost a magical moment, to use the cheesiest of expression. Because like so I worked at a Warhammer store for 3 years, and I'm pretty confident that like most models, even if I don't play them, like I've heard of them or I know about them. But there was a clam pack, a Stormcast Eternal character who was in kind of tucked away on one of the shelves in the shop when we first entered after being in the sun for 10 hours, and I'd never heard of him. Um, and like I looked it up like on Warhammer Community, and all I could find was a post in 2019 saying like, "Hey, this guy's gonna come out. We don't know when or how, but like you'll be able to get him." And then the most recent thing I could find on him was a Facebook post from a month ago on Games Workshop's official Facebook, and they said, "Yeah, we don't know when this model will come out, but we'll let you know." And he just kind of turned up in my line of vision and was like, I'm getting that guy." It was crazy. It was like, uh, it's been so long since I've walked into a Games Workshop store, seen a Warhammer model that I'd never seen or heard of before. He was also kind of just a cool little Stormcast guy with a hammer and a sword. But that was kind of a cool moment. It reminded me of being a kid in a Games Workshop store where like everything was a new release to me. Like I had no idea what anything was. And I would say also like the exclusive miniatures that they put up to sell at this event. I mean, exclusive miniatures drive me crazy. I think I get why they do it, but I wish they didn't. Particularly because the two exclusives they made this for this store opening, only for this store opening, and three more events they're going to do across the U.S. over the next year, and that's going to be it. Like it is soul crushing to have to like get in line for a model you're not even sure you're going to be able to buy. Um, and like I wasn't ride or die for either of the miniatures. I was really excited that I got it. But we were talking about it, John, of like what would we line up for again if we knew it was going to be 10.5 hours? What could be worth getting in line for 10.5 hours to buy?
I give him an answer. So the hypothetical would be like a limited Archeon on foot. I would do that.
I totally agree with.
Unrealistic stuff is like like a Corsoane model or like an Abaddon, but that those are I don't think they'll make those because they're characters, right? But
Yeah, got pretty good.
um,
They wouldn't do that.
I remember randomly I just popped out of my squat when I was resting and like I was like, well, I would totally go after this model. Would be the Star Wars Celebration Darth Vader for Legion, which has the sickest pose where he's like holding a lightsaber and his arms in front, like and there's like rocks around him because he's using the Force. I would definitely wait 10 hours for that guy. That is a great model.
Yeah, it would have to be something pretty special. And for my money, the Chaos Champion they released is the first female Chaos Champion model in decades for sure, and definitely the best sculpted. Like that was kind of why I got in line. Everything else was kind of gravy. Like I was able to pick her up and like. Well, one of the things that was cool is when we were in line, the Games Workshop employees were walking down, the line, and they were, trying to, entertain people and check in, and they were letting us know like this is how many of the miniature we think we have left, like just in the spirit of being open, which I thought was really cool. I thought, I mean, what little we interacted with like the staff, like it seems like that's if they pick good people, it's going to be a well-run store. Now, what did you make of the store itself, John?
Oh man. So I'll start with the good stuff first. It's pretty sizable. A lot of space for gaming tables. Has Forge World, so I could play Horse Heresy there and not feel bad.
Absolutely,
Um,
which is a rare thing.
yeah. Um, the manager is a cool guy, Shad. He's great. The staff were pretty friendly. Also, the staff were young, and I know, like to me, like not having old graybeards run a store. Oh, in my experience, always led to a better experience.
Well, there's a gray beard in charge,
Right, but he's cool, so he's
but
okay.
he's leading young
Yeah,
beards.
the young beards, yeah. But yeah, lots of everything. Mostly everything is in stock. Not everything. I thought everything would be in stock, but not find a Death Watch Kill Team box. And apparently they're not going to stock that. It's web store only for some reason. But um, so that's the good news. I would definitely go there. It's not. It's like 35 minutes from me. I would go there again for a 30K game if there's an event or something. Not opposed to that. Now it is a few it is a short distance away from other big game stores like Gameology and Odyssey Games in Pasadena. Um, and those stores may be attractive for the my big criticism of Warhammer Cafe is that the tables are cardboard or the gaming space. So like
They're
your gaming
cardboard.
area, gaming mats, or the realm of battle. Now they're using the cardboard. You've seen the cardboard, right, Matt? The ones in new starter sets.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
that's the gaming space. Now, that makes sense because one, we don't sell Realm of Battle. They don't sell Realms of Battle anymore. Two, they don't sell gaming mats. That's the only game. Like the cardboard is the only gaming space they do sell. And
And a lot of the cardboard is actually out of print or going last chance to buy, which is interesting. Like Blasted Hollowheart, which is my least favorite of the cardboard mats. It's the Age of Sigmar one that has like thorns and like a little like white cobblestone path on it. I think that is a terrible product. And that, thank God, is going out of print, which is good. But yeah, it was. We had a running bet in line about whether the tables were going to be cardboard or they were just going to say, you know what, we're just going to use the old Realm of Battles, make it presentable, make it look nice. And it's cardboard.
I unfortunately won that bet. Did not want to win because I wanted, actual gaming space that isn't cardboard. But
Well, I guess it makes sense for now. So, I
right.
mean, I went to my local GW store, and he said, if they ever open, it's gonna be limited gaming, obviously, because I mean, our store isn't that big, and you'll have to bring your own terrain, kind of deal. So, because they're no longer gonna provide terrain, according to him.
That's surprising.
Speaking of terrain, this cafe does have a lot of really cool terrain. The terrain is actually really nice. Which again
Yeah.
is hard to me because it's paired up with the freaking cardboard. But yeah,
Yes.
terrain is
The
great.
terrain is really great. Actually, I think what terrain we did get to see. I mean, the Age of Sigmar terrain was very creative, and the 40k terrain made great use of Sector Mechanicus. The Necromunda board was very impressive
Oh,
to me.
that was I think the epitome of our comment because it's a super dense zone mortalis plastic multi-leveled multi-floored walls and stuff fully painted and the freaking mat is paper. It's the paper mat from the starter set. Like it's not even cardboard, it's paper. You know.
Oh
So
man.
I was laughing. But again, the terrain was great. Would definitely play some necro there.
Yeah. For specialist games in LA, it's going to be a huge mecca of going there and like people playing. Like I think it's going to be an amazing place for like scheduled games of AT, for Blood Bowl. If one
Yeah,
has the
man.
affliction to go play Blood Bowl.
It was kind of crazy that I was able to just grab some Titanica stuff from the wall and like buy it. Um,
This store makes it possible that someone could walk in off the street and begin their Warhammer hobby with Adeptus Titanicus.
That's good.
or Warlord Titan, which is dumb, but
They could do that, but like they could just like walk in and be like, "Oh wow, I'm gonna play some Necromundas." Like, are you have any interest, sir, in Warhammer Age of Sigmar or Warhammer 40,000? No, like I'm gonna play Necromunda, and that's like my first game. And that's the thing that the store like is also primed to do. I think that's the stuff that's positive. Is it is not just a slightly bigger Warhammer store, which it is. It's it harkens back to the mall stores of old, which in the U.S. we don't have any of those anymore. There's a couple stores that are kind of built in the remnants of what were mall stores, and you can kind of see the past glory, as it were. Um, but a lot of them are like the store that I worked at. They're cubbies. They're holes in the wall, and like you can find great stuff there, and you can meet other people who do Warhammer. But like they're in terms of like places to gather and like places to like bask, and how many people are excited about your hobby. Like they're pretty limited in what they can do. I mean, one of the things that was crazy is we saw uh, hundreds of people in line, right? Not thousands of people in line, but hundreds of people in line, excited, to go buy Warhammer stuff, and like not caring that much that it was incredibly hot outside, and that they were gonna have to wait for another 10 hours to get in.
Here's my question to you guys, since you guys are there. Uh, is this if we weren't under current restrictions, would you guys have been waiting 10 hours, or do you think
yes,
I don't know if it played a huge role actually.
yeah, because the main reason why we waited 10 hours, which I can't believe I'm about to say this. There's one till, there's one cash
Well,
register.
the one register, I think there were two registers and one broke, was my understanding.
Also, another reason on top of that was so the Forge World section. So there's most of the Forge World stuff was behind the counter. So if you wanted like a black book, if you wanted like a Titan, if you wanted like a Primarch, if you wanted like Shadow Specters, um, you could only grab you had to let the guys know when you tell, hey, can I get a Warlord? Hey, can I get? I mean, if we knew what you wanted, like the guy in front of us in line, he got a Warbringer Titan. because he's like, I know I want that, so he grabbed it. There was some stuff like if you wanted like Rise of Pattern Last Cannons, or if you wanted like Tiburos, the Red Wig, Tiburos, however you say his name. He was available in blisters at the main shopping area, but a lot of the big Forge World stuff was behind the main counter, the till. So you had to be like, I want this, I want that. Hey, can I see what's there? Which did slow the line on top of of having one till. Um,
Yeah.
to your question, yeah, actually did not think the social distancing affected the line. It was really just the till.
The till and the sheer number of people, and it was also the Forge World setup is very much the same as it is in the Warhammer Citadel store over in Texas. Um, I get why it's like that, but for a big day like this, a gigantic gum up in the works. I would imagine, particularly for people who are like buying, we're trying to find, if they had a very specific thing, Forge World boxes, like a lot of GW boxes from the direct store, they don't have the picture on the front. So you got to go and flip boxes around and find what you're looking for. And like, if you need just a specific gun or like you're looking for like one special character amidst, however, I mean, they probably had, how would you say, John? They probably had at least 200 Forge World boxes in the shop, something like that.
A lot, yeah.
And big stuff too. I mean, the people were walking out with Titans. Um, so yeah, that definitely caused problems. But they were, I think considering those two things, that probably would have, under ideal circumstances, having two tills obviously would make the line move twice as quickly. Um, and having some kind of pre way to like pick out what Forge World thing you want, so someone would go in like with a clipboard and be like, "Hey, what can we set aside for you?" That would have been good. But otherwise, I mean, they managed it. Like a lot of people came in. I'm sure they made a boatload of gold. Some of it they got from me, some of it they got from John. I don't think we spent nearly as much as some other people did, but we participated.
The highlight for me was we were in line, and Will was looking at the store founding dice, and I pointed out to him that the 6 was a skull, and he was like, "Oh no!" Immediately put it back.
And the store founding dice, as you were telling me that, like there was an employee going down like the row of people online, be like, "There's only 6 of these dice left. Like you gotta act now if you want them." And then John told me that, and I became $35 wealthier. I like gave him the dice and was like, "I don't want these."
I know Matt would love them.
Oh no!
What kind of
I mean,
dice were they?
so imagine regular dice, but the 6 is a skull. Now try rolling that with all your other GW dice, where the 1 is the skull and the 6 the faction symbol, and have fun.
God. Well, I mean, it's not so bad. Okay, if there was 1 and 6 were both different numbers, then it would be a problem. But yeah, I do see why it would be annoying for some people. For me, as long as it's not both 1 and 6 that are symbols, I don't really care. So I mean, if the 6 is a skull and there's still a 1, it's whatever. It's bad design in my opinion, but I wouldn't, I wouldn't hate it
Right, right.
completely.
Um, but yeah, it was fun. Did not regret the experience. Probably I will go there again once I get to these Horus Heresy boxes and paint them, and then
Yeah,
play a 1,000 point game.
if you're going there for a good purpose, like, and it would be like a great place to meet for the SoCal Horus Heresy group,
Right.
because it's a store that, like John was saying, it's one of the few stores you can go there, you can play 30K and support the store, and be welcome. Like that's
Or
what you're there to do. Like that's a store where Horus Heresy is equally valid, um, whereas opposed to every other Games Workshop store, and particularly every independent store, Horus Heresy is like bringing, you know, it's like bringing a completely different thing into the store. Like you can't as far as I know, independent stores can't order Forge World at all.
No, they can't.
It's no different from going into a McDonald's with your checkerboard and being like, yeah, I'm just gonna play checkers, even though it should be the opposite. But because of the Forge World Games Workshop distinction, can't do it that way. But at the cafe, you can, which is very cool, and it fills the niche for that reason.
Well, I know. I doubt this happened, but I know they promoted it. Uh, were there any games going on?
No.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Predictably, yeah, gaming was not a thing.
Where they
Uh,
were saying AoS 3.0 games were gonna happen on their opening, and I was like, probably not. Probably not gonna
so
happen.
their opening technically lasts for 2 weeks. They have a 2 week like sort of opening thing. So like several of the not the global exclusives which sold out that day, but like they have a couple other exclusives that will be available for like the next week or so. Because it's still they're still having their grand opening for a couple weeks.
Hmm.
So they probably will be showing off some 3.0 AOS pretty soon. But yeah, there was no gaming on that day. Absolutely not.
Well, I'll have to check it out. Hopefully, hopefully I won't have to wait 10 hours in line.
No.
Yeah, I don't think that'll happen ever again.
Yeah, it's all depending on the release,
Unless Arc on foot.
unless it's Archeon on foot.
And see, it was an even more extreme example because it was only that store. So this store was the release of those two miniatures over the entire world. Like so it was incredibly prized. Like hopefully if they do something like Archeon and Foot, which I really don't want them to do because I don't want to get in line for that, but I will. Uh, I would assume that it would be at more than just one location.
Most likely, or an anniversary kind of deal, right?
Yeah, that's a little different. I mean, blanket statement, all exclusive miniatures annoy me because if you make a great sculpt, making it a promotional item that, is then lost to the world after, the weekend it's available, I think is incredibly disappointing. Um, and I can understand why people, would go and get a third party version of such said models because, like, if you can't get it, like, and there's no way for you to get it any normal way, uh, piracy is your only option,
Hmm. Yeah.
which is I mean I worked at a store, so that's a hard thing for me to say. But like these sculpts that they make for these anniversary things are generally really great. And it would be awesome if there was a way to get them beyond the sort of the FOMO hype train. That to me is one of my least favorite things Games Workshop does. I still bought them, so my wallet says I'm okay with it. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I wish they didn't.
Well, I mean that's one way to drive in hype for the store. Even though I'm pretty sure the fact that the store sold Forge World was probably enough hype. You
Yeah,
gotta have that exclusivity as well as an incentive to get more people in.
I mean, I straight up wouldn't have gone if they didn't have the Chaos Warrior.
Right. I mean,
Like
I'm
even if
sure a
it was
lot of people would have gone.
30
It's
minute
just
wait. Yeah.
it's that extra incentive.
No, I'm saying I wouldn't have gone if it wasn't for the Chaos Warrior.
Oh, you wouldn't have gone.
Yeah, even if the wait was like 30 minutes, I would not go if they didn't have stuff like that. So I guess those tactics work.
Yep, it worked on John.
yeah, it worked on me. I mean, I hate them, but like I did it anyway. Like it's the reason why it makes me so disappointed is because like a lot of the exclusive sculpts are great and they like fill in slots that otherwise don't have great models taking their place. The aspiring champion model that they released, the female aspiring champion, Holga Clovenhorn, is what she was called. The current aspiring champion miniature for Slaves to Darkness is a fine cast miniature. It's not great by modern standards, but the Holga model is excellent. The fact that it's a chaos lady is kind of that's a fun novelty too, but it's also just a good sculpt.
It's
Um,
the Necron Lord. That guy, if you want a Lord with a Staff of Light and a Resorb, he's fine cast.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. Um, Now there's a lord with the Resorb that has a Void Scythe. So if you're doing WYSIWYG, and and also that's also a previous generation lord. So if you want a current style Overlord that matches the aesthetic and size, and bulkiness of the Indominus Lord with a Staff of Light and a Resorb, well, you better
Yeah,
have it on the Citadel or pay $100 on eBay.
your host. Yeah. Nah, that stuff drives me crazy. You asked me a while back, John, like what are things that like because generally I'm pretty lenient with Games Workshop. Maybe that's just a result of I don't know. I like their models. And I want them to keep making models forever, at least for the rest of my lifetime. But the exclusive miniatures like this just drive me up the wall. I didn't even realize that Necron Lord was like that.
Yep.
Uh, that I think is also um, downright. That's
Lame.
that's so
Nice
lame.
thing to say.
Is what it is. Um, because they can get away with it, and people will totally flock to do it.
Yep. Well, so all in all, fun time minus the 10 hours of waiting in line.
Absolutely. It was definitely. It was also just cool to be there at the ground level of something big and new for the hobby in LA. Um, the fellow who's running this new store is the guy who ran one of the largest Games Workshop stores in the chain. Not only recently, but like back during the heyday when you know they were just releasing the Lord of the Rings game, and like Games Workshop was kind of experiencing its first, golden age, before things got really weird in the mid 2000s. So it's just cool to see that that Warhammer has really clawed its way back to being able to have big spaces like that in the U.S.
Well, ever since
Um,
the bunker
Get a hard
closed, right?
Yeah, the bunker. And the guy who managed the bunker was also in line. He's not going to be a permanent staffer at the store, but like he was there, doing trivia questions. It was funny because he was going in between groups of people in line and asking them like, "Okay, we're going to do trivia, Age of Sigmar or Warhammer 40,000." And then he got to me and John and then asked a 30K question
Yep.
that he pretty clearly just improvised. Because I think he wanted to see whether John or I would answer first. John answered first, for the record.
Yes, I got my
Second
swag,
before.
my cool team acrylic tokens.
Hmm.
So that was cool. It was a good time. I think all circumstances about exploding till and cardboard aside, like they did the best they could with what they have. The shop is really cool looking on the inside too. Um, you know they uh, they did a good job with this one. They spared no expense, just like Jurassic Park. It in exactly that metaphor actually, because T-Rexes and everything.
Yes.
Well, well, I'd like to end off with one more question here, unless you guys got something else you want to talk about.
No.
But it's a cafe after all. So, how did you guys do any of the food or drinks?
Oh hell no.
It was not possible. It really wasn't practical to do that. Mostly because we were all stuck inside anyway, and like we had to get back too. We had other things to do later that day, so we weren't able to stop for that. I did talk to one guy who was in line way behind us, and he got one of the drinks and with like his dad, and he said it was awesome. But like,
I don't believe him. I mean, I go out to eat a lot. I have no faith that the food there is like good for
oh,
the
I
price.
don't know about. I mean, the food is probably just
No,
food
even the
got in
drink.
a
I have
bag.
no faith that it's any good. I'm just being honest.
Oh, I have pretty low standards for that. Uh, the Warhammer Citadel Cafe in Texas, like I really enjoyed the drinks on selection there. The drinks appear to be almost exactly the same as from the Citadel Cafe. So like it's for me, it's probably good enough, and also just the novelty of being able to get a Warhammer themed drink while you're in the Warhammer store, and it has that Disneyland vibe. So it's totally cornball, but like I'm all about it.
Hmm. I'm sure it's overpriced like Disneyland as well.
Probably. We didn't partake, but I could see myself doing so if I'm ever in that neck of the woods again.
Very cool. Well, is there anything else you guys want to add before we close up?
Oh my gosh, Horus Heresy box set. What the hell?
All right, anything else you guys want to talk?
It's just funny to me how AOS 3.0's core rule download is 10 times longer than the one that launched in 2015.
Exactly.
New, better rule set that's ever existed. That was what they said. So of course it's gonna be longer.
Pretty easy track record to follow because there's only been 3 editions, and like there's nobody who's clamoring for like AOS 1.0, and like I don't imagine people will be all that annoyed with 3.0. Like it's just not taking controversial risks in the way that things like 8th edition and 7th edition did for Warhammer 40,000, which even though I agreed with the change, like that, I could see why people, were mad. Because that was a pretty huge shakeup. They had to release all new codexes, like the whole game changed. And the way, if you make the argument that Warhammer Fantasy Battle is the precursor to Age of Sigmar from a rules perspective, which I would argue it isn't, that was the level of difference there. Not quite that extreme, but like 7th edition to 8th edition 40k, I can see why people got heated about that. But for AOS 3.0, like it's a pretty easy claim to make that the rules will be better because like we did more practice as developers.
Yeah.
Like John always says, a lot of the new battle tomes, it's not necessarily that they're like, oh, the new thing is OP. It's like, no, the new thing is better thought out.
Yep.
New thing is like the rules are more interesting because they got good and they saw what worked and didn't work.
Yep. Excited, and I'm looking forward to hearing the story of the first 3.0 game that you guys are gonna do. Well, that John's gonna do.
Yeah, it should be interesting.
Well, okay then. I think it's a good place to stop here. So, thanks for everyone listening, and then till next time. Goodbye.
Later, everyone.